Hello and welcome back to the Health and Harmony Girls podcast. Today we're going to cover how to know when you are growing or in a growth phase or growth mindset.
Yes.
We thought it would be a nice change, well, not change of direction, but something different from what we've been talking about lately. I know we're talking about more spirituality inclined things. But now we just want to talk about you and your growth.
Yes. And how to know when you grow. I was thinking about it. I was like, when you were saying the intro, I was like, literally, no matter if it's you or me, whoever says the intro is always like, hello. I'm like, we've literally told you from the beginning, we'll always sing our words. So there's your proof.
Always. All right, so let's jump into it. Number one way to know that you are growing is that you commit to and practice observing yourself. I think this is so important because as soon as you start to actually take note of your habits, your mistakes, the way you talk to people, like everything that you do in your life, you start to notice how you can be better or where you're going wrong, or just how you can almost become a better person in order to grow and shine your light.
Yeah, I think it completely relates to like just being, like you're saying, aware. Like the minute you're aware of everything that you're doing or the way that you're acting and the things that are going on in your life, it makes it easier for you to grow because you know what's happening.
You know what is happening.
Okay, number two. Number two is you notice a story that you're telling yourself. So, I mean, guys, this is basically calling yourself out on your own BS bullshit because we're allowed to swear on this podcast. But I mean, noticing stories that you're telling yourself over and over. I know I'm just going to use the example of exercise because I think it's very difficult for a lot of people to, I mean, we're talking about growth here, but we're just also talking about bullshit stories that you tell yourself. A lot of people will be like, I can't do this because I don't have enough time in the day, or I've got too many things going on, or you can't find time to meditate, 3 minutes to meditate because you're so busy in the day. But anything that you really want in this life, you will make time for. So catch yourself out on your bullshit stories that you're telling yourself.
And it's so liberating when you actually do call yourself out because you're like, shut the front door. You're literally lying to yourself. And I think that's like such a good way to grow because you're the best person to call yourself out, because you're probably the last person, if you're not in a growth mindset, to be calling yourself out on your own crap.
And I mean, think about it, guys. It's so much more embarrassing if other people are calling you out. Like, you might as well call yourself out, because if you keep telling the same BS stories the whole time, like one of your best mates or your parents are going to be like, girl, you need to pull yourself towards yourself. Like, that story is old now. Rather you be the one that's like, Bianca, that story is so old. I actually realized the other day, so random, but like, if you have to go to America, my name would be Bianca anyway.
Bianca.
I'm like, gross.
Yeah.
Okay,
and you
next
also don't want to
point.
become that girl who everyone doesn't believe when you say you're going to do something because you never actually do it, or you always have an
Yes.
excuse. So start growing, girl. Okay, number three, you set a boundary you may not have set before. We spoke about boundaries before, and I think when you do finally start to set those boundaries that scare you the most or intimidate you the most, that's when you know you're growing, because you are stepping out of your comfort zone and you are putting up the boundaries that you've always wanted to but never actually had the courage to. And that's just a beautiful way to see that you are growing.
Completely. I feel like we've spoken about this before, but I mean, you may have people in your life that you've always been too scared to get rid of, and or to like set boundaries with. You may still have them in your life, but to make sure that you don't see them as often as you usually do. And I think it takes a really big person to just take a step back and be like, you know what, I don't have to be around that person all the time, or I don't have to see that person at all anymore. And the minute you set up those boundaries and like do things that make you happy and that are going to be beneficial to your growth, that is already a step in the right direction. And you are probably already growing at that point because you've literally set the boundaries that you never set before. So, I mean, if you didn't used to set boundaries and you are now, that's growth, baby. That is
I
growth.
think we'll find quite like similarities between everything we're going to mention now in this whole podcast, that growth is basically taking yourself out of the equation, responding to everything as if you're in every person's shoes, not just from your like selfish reactive state, and also doing the things that you always been too scared to or too lazy to, or whatever your excuse is. Okay.
Completely
Who's
agree.
next?
Okay, number 4. You honor a commitment to yourself. So that's also a big step, guys, just like we were talking about. I mean, yes, you can also honor the way that you feel in making plans. If you don't want to go somewhere, don't go. But to honor yourself in making these commitments is like, you say you've always wanted to like study something extra, or you've always wanted to apply for a job, or you've always wanted to go for a 10-minute walk every morning. Like, honor that commitment, and that's the time I've set aside for myself, or this is a goal I've set for myself, and like nothing is going to get in the way of that. The minute you honor commitments to yourself, it becomes so much easier to honor every other commitment in your life. Because I mean, like we always say, it's so cheesy, but if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love someone else? Same thing about, if you don't respect yourself, like, you literally cannot respect other people. So respect yourself, honor those commitments you make to yourself, and it'll be so much easier to honor commitments to other people and to situations in your life.
We really do need to learn as a human race to put ourselves first, because you always let yourself down first before you let anyone else down.
Yep.
So yeah, I think by honoring commitments to yourself, that's just a huge growth thing, and you're going to benefit so much from it.
I think it's important because a lot of people, like, unless you're on like a spiritual journey, or you're on like a growth path, or you have a growth mindset, it's very difficult, because it's almost the unlearning of the fact that you don't come first. Because I mean, growing up, we were all taught like to put other people before yourselves, and like, other people come first, and it's literally not the case at all. So it's just the unlearning of that shitty ass example that other people come before you do. Like, you need to put yourself first in every situation. It's very difficult at first, but once you start doing it, girl, you ain't gonna stop, let me tell you.
Girl, you ain't gonna stop.
You won't.
All right, number 5, you take ownership and accountability when there's something to own. And I think the biggest thing that stands out for me, and when I realized I was growing, was to be able to take the blame when I knew it was my fault, because I grew up being very stubborn and very like stuck in my own ways, and believing that it's the same thing as everyone believing they're always right. But how many times have you been adamant that you were right about something, and then gone and researched it later and been like, oh my gosh,
I was completely
John
wrong.
was actually right, and I was such an asshole to him. So I think just acknowledging when you make mistakes, not just to yourself but to other people, and owning it
completely. I feel like I'm also the same. Like, I grew up super, super stubborn. Like, I was always right no matter what. I was always willing to argue. My brother's actually still like that. He's very much a person that's like, no matter what anyone else says, he's always right. You've even seen that. Like, everyone knows.
I was going to say, I feel like all siblings are the same.
Literally, I was like that for so long. And yes, I mean, to a point, there's still some times where I really do feel or believe that I'm right, and I will argue my way. But the whole point of this growth point is that when you realize you are wrong, you're either able to say sorry to someone for the way that you spoke to them, or like just to say sorry that you thought you were so adamant that you were right. And I think it also boils down to your relationships. I mean, with yourself and with your partners or your family members. A lot of people are like, they'll have a fight or something will happen, and it's very difficult for people to own up and be like, you know what, I was wrong in the situation. But that's a whole point of like massive growth, is being able to turn to your partner or whoever it is and be like, you know what, I was wrong. Like, it may take you a little bit of time to realize, but just owning that wrongness and being able to be like, once again, calling yourself out and being like, you know what, it was maybe me that was wrong. It's growth for yourself and growth for your relationships in your life as well.
And I think another level of this is that when you start to be more open and receptive to believing that other people can know more than you, guys, it's a miracle. We don't know everything.
Yep.
You open yourself up to learning so much more, so many more perspectives, so many new things, because you aren't just always stuck in your own stubborn mindset that you know what's what and no one else knows anything else.
Completely. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, is it me?
Yes.
Okay. So we just did point number 5.
Yeah.
So point number 6 is that you can see another perspective outside of your own. So that's like basically what Rox is just saying. You are not always right. Like, yes, you may voice your opinion, but also give someone else the opportunity to be able to voice their opinion, because sometimes someone else's perspective is more correct than maybe what yours is. And I feel like it's such a common thing to say, but perspective is everything. Like, someone may have a completely different perspective on a situation to you, and they may give you some insight, and you're like, you know what, I actually never thought about it like that. Like, how many times have you had a conversation with someone where either you or the other person has said like, I've never thought about it that way, and it's the same topic, but you've never thought about it in the way that someone else has thought about it. So just be able to like take a perspective outside of your own perspective and realize that sometimes you're not always right.
I think this also goes back to like, we always talk about preconditioning, like we were saying earlier, even. We also preconditioned in our own ways. We've been brought up in different ways, brought up with different beliefs, brought up in different like environments where we've learned things different ways. So like being open to different perspectives is also another beautiful way to learn, like I said about the last point, because
completely
you're not just shutting everything out that just doesn't sound right to you.
Yes.
All right, number 7, you see the pain of others and their reactivity without over personalizing. So I mean, this just basically means even if someone is losing their shit at you, before you react, take a step back and be like, why is this person getting so upset about what I've said or what's just happened in the situation? What is triggering them? You don't know what's happened in their lives. Someone might have been electrocuted by lightning in front of them when they were a kid, and you laughing at them because they're scared of lightning when the storm comes in. You always have to remember that we all have our own history, we all have our own traumas, we all have our own memories. So just respecting that and not letting your own emotions take over in a situation, because you could actually just be pushing someone into more hurt and turmoil, I think.
Completely. And I feel like it also boils down to like not taking everything so personally, guys. Like someone may react in a certain way and you may feel like, wow, that was so uncalled for, and you take it to heart, but you have no idea, like they may have had the worst day of their life, like something really bad may have happened that day, or maybe something really bad didn't happen, they're just having the worst day of their life. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that someone's directly attacking you, and the less personal you take things, the less like, I think, you know, I can't even get my sentence out, but I'm like, the less personal you take things, the more you'll realize like some people may just be going through hurt, and you need to be able to see the hurt in other people before
Definitely
you just take it straight to the heart center.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm doing it on the video. I'm like, no one can see it on the podcast, so it must sound ridiculous.
We're the sounds effect committee.
Yeah. He's doing better than Love Island. My God. Okay, guys. Then number 8, the final point is you move away from changing others and move towards integrating the change you'd like to see for yourself. So this is super important. I think a lot of people, it boils down to projection. A lot of the times we want to change people around us, or we really just focus so hard on changing. I mean, you could still live at home with your parents and you may despise your dad or despise your mom, and you like really want to change who they are as a person. But number 1, you are not perfect. As like we said earlier, it may be very hard to realize. You may want to change your partner. You may want to change your roommate, whoever it is that you live with or are constantly surrounded by. You may want to change your boss. But instead of looking at the outside people and always like seeking change on the outside, rather look at the inside and be like, you know what, I'm pointing out all these like flaws on this person. I'm sure I'm not perfect myself, because none of us are. We always have room for growth. We always have things to work on. Like you just need to focus on yourself. And the minute you start focusing on yourself and you start growing, it becomes easier to just block out all of that around you.
And I think also, if there are people in your life that you wish you could change, they're probably not the people that you want to have in your life. Obviously, like you can't choose your family. Well, you can. Depends on how Mexican you are. So I've been watching way too much Queen of the South. But I lost my train of thought now.
You can't choose your family.
So if there are people in your life that you constantly feel like you wish you could change, let's say it's a partner or a friend, they're probably not the people that are meant to be in your life. If there are people in your life that you don't want to change, those are the perfect people, because they gel with you and they aren't triggering you in certain ways. But then also remember, if there are people in your life that you want to change, the things that trigger you from them could be the same faults that you have in yourself. So it's almost like using it as a mirror activity to be like, why is this girl pissing me off, or this person making me angry? Writing them down and like really sitting and being honest with yourself and realizing maybe I do this. Maybe I'm also guilty of being too pushy or being too stubborn, because that's normally when you clash with people. Anyway, you both got similar characteristics that are strong, not negative characteristics, but strong lower vibrational characteristics, if we can term it that.
Completely. I'm like, I like to, now that you brought that up, I was just thinking it was one thing that crossed my mind. It was like, do you remember when we were all younger and everyone used to be like, don't point your finger at me because you have 4 fingers pointing back at yourself. Like, it's the honest to God perfect example, because you point your finger at someone about something that they're doing or something they're irritating you about, and you literally have all these fingers pointing back at you. And that is a perfect example of just realizing that sometimes you may be upset with someone or they may be annoying you, but you literally have stuff to work on yourself. And you may be pointing at someone about one thing. I'm taking this way too philosophically right now, but I'm like, you may be pointing at someone about one thing, and you may have like 4 things for that one thing that you have to work on yourself. So don't be so hypocritical of other people, because we ain't perfect.
Nobody's perfect, but once you start to grow, you can get nearer to it.
Yeah. Very good one there, Rox. You can get nearer to it. Okay, so those are just the 8 points of like how to know that you're growing. And now we are going to touch on, what are we going to do?
So I just wanted to touch on growth mindset. I mean, obviously we always talk about self-talk and what goes on in your head. And we thought we'd just point out a few things that you could be saying to yourself that like almost stunting your growth, and what you can say instead to help you like take on this growth mindset and grow.
Like we say, catch yourself out. So these are the ways that you're going to catch yourself out.
So instead of thinking, I cannot do this, rather say like, what am I missing? What do I need? What skills do I need? What fears do I have to overcome in order to do this thing? Why am I putting it off? Why am I procrastinating? Why do I think I physically or emotionally or mentally can't achieve this task?
I like that you actually boiled that down, because I'm like, sometimes you just get so overwhelmed by everything that you say you can't do something. But I like that you broke it down into the physical, mental, emotional like side of things, because it's like, what are you missing? Is it something that you feel like you're physically not strong enough to do? Is it something that you don't feel like you can emotionally cope with? Like, break it down all the way until you reach that last little point of what you realize, what you think you're missing. And then we work on that. Like, that's what growth's about.
There's a solution to every problem.
Yes. We are philosophers today, guys. Yes, let me just tell you. Okay, also, instead of thinking I'm not smart enough, why don't you replace it with something like, I will learn how to do this? So, I mean, I know my mom is a big example of something like this. Like, she always doubts herself. She's like, even when we used to be at school and we wanted to do homework, she's like, don't ask me, I'm stupid, ask your father. And I'm like, Mom, like, you can't call yourself stupid. You aren't stupid. Like, you know so much. Don't be so quick to just doubt yourself and throw yourself under the bus and be like, I'm not smart enough to do that. Sorry. Like, I think a lot of us do that instead of being like, I'd rather learn the skill to do it, or learn and gather the knowledge to be able 100%. To do it.
And I love that you brought that up, because even my hubby, he wasn't very academic in school, but he's very street smart. He's very business smart, and he's very good at sports, very sports smart,
very
much to my dismay.
Yeah.
And he always says to me, are you the smart one, booger? Why didn't you do that? And I'm like, you know what? We might not be smart in the same ways, but you can't call yourself stupid just because you don't know how to spell a specific word. That just means I've got the skill to spell. I'm like, I don't know who's number 7 in the rugby team for this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or I don't know. He's like a human GPS. I don't know how he does it. He just drives really, everywhere and anywhere with not even looking
literally
at
go there once, and Josh knows exactly where he's going. And I'm just like, Josh, I'm so lost, mate.
So remember to praise yourself on the skills that you do have, and then learn the skills that you don't, if there are something that you need to grow in your life.
Completely.
Okay. Then instead of thinking this is as good as it's going to get.
That's a very common one.
Rather think, is this really my best work? I can always improve. I think so many of us just give up and be like, it's also limiting beliefs. If you were brought up in a poorer household, just being like, I was born to be poor. It's all these stupid things that we just settle for, when in reality, all we need to do is take steps to become better, to work harder. everyone comes from a rags to rich, well, not everyone, lol, I wish I did,
Yeah.
rags to riches story, but you hear so many stories about people who came from nothing, no resources, no education, and now they're multi-billion dollar like moguls in this business world or Instagram world or whatever world it is. So don't ever give up on yourself because you just think this is the life that I've been given, the cards that I've been dealt.
100%. Like, it's not as good as it's going to get, guys. Everything can always get better as long as you believe. The minute you believe that it can't, like, you are the only person that's stopping yourself.
Exactly. And it goes back to, I will learn how to do this. If you can't build a website, go and there's so many online
We always
courses.
say Google
it.
Google is the best
Also, there's so
tool.
many cheap online courses you can do now, like,
and Google it and it will take you to the
180 rand. Yes, I know some people might not even be able to afford that, but then make that a goal. Put aside 50 rand every month, and then in 4 months or whatever, even if it's 20 rand, you can put aside. It's a goal that you can work towards to obtain a skill that you need in order to start the business that you've always dreamed of, or the career.
And time flies so quickly, guys, as cheesy as that sounds, but like, by the time you are able to afford that course, like 4 months have literally gone by so quickly. And then instead of in 4 months time being like, you know what, I should have started saving for this 4 months ago, just start putting the money away every single month. Like I say, I'm really not a preacher when it comes to finances, because I'm not great with my banking, but you should always just do it, and you'll appreciate the fact that you did when the time comes that you can afford it, because you've already forgotten about that.
And look at the time as a blessing. I mean, we all have access to Google. You might want to sign up for, let's say, this website course you've always wanted to do. But in the meantime, Google it. There's so many YouTube videos, so that when it does come time to be able to pay for and afford that course, you've already got so much knowledge that you're already like starting ahead of where you would have.
Completely. Okay. Then also, instead of thinking, I give up, big one, because we all give up very easily, try thinking this: I'll try a different strategy and try again. So, I mean, there's no giving up unless you've tried. Actually, not unless anything, you should never give up, but you should try like a million different avenues. Like we always say, there's so many different roads that lead to the same place. You honestly, one person may do something X way and you may do something Y way, but you will end up at the same. I know this is going kind of a bit off, but I think it relates to how people learn. Like, a lot of people are more visual learners. A lot of people are more like mathematical or equations or words, whatever it is. People learn in different ways, but you all get the same degree or business, whatever, at the end of the day. And no matter what path you take, you'll always get there. So instead of giving up, maybe just be like, this is my preferred way of learning or preferred way of doing something, but maybe it's not the way I was supposed to do it. Like maybe there's a different avenue that I can take. And I mean, I'm just using business as an example because it's what we were speaking about, but like take university, for example. A lot of people go straight into the thought process of like, I didn't do maths at school and I didn't do science, so I can't study medicine. And more often than not, instead of doing the extra research and being like, what other way can I get about this? You can do bridging courses after matric of like maths, science, whatever it is, and then start studying like 2 years later. Yes, it's going to add extra time and it's going to take you a bit longer, but you can still reach that end goal. So there's always a way of working around situations to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, where there's a will, there's a way. And like we always say, failure is feedback. So instead of just throwing in the towel, I mean, when I hear the words I give up, and I say this with so much like love and grace, but it sounds so childish to me. Like it reminds me of when I was a kid and you get so frustrated and you just like, oh, give up, and you just leave it. Stubborn, tantrum. Like we said, there's a million ways to skin a cat. And the more you fail, the more you learn, well, that didn't work, I'm not going to do that again. Let me try it this way. Let me try it this way. And eventually you will find that success you've been looking for.
Also, I feel like we said, growth mindset, guys. If you've tried one way and it doesn't work, like, yes, okay, try again, maybe twice. The second time it will work for you. Maybe it was just the wrong timing. But if you keep using the same method over and over and over again, like, honestly, I think it was Einstein. I can't remember that saying, but it was like, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results, like that is the literal definition of insanity. So if you're going to keep using the same method over and over again, and then you say, I give up, like have you honestly explored or tried all options? No, you have not.
A little bit of tough love for you guys.
Yes. We're throwing in all the quotes today. I'm just like, my brain is firing quotes. So is yours. We've created our own ones.
This is what happens when you don't record on a Monday.
Yeah. This is why we always say our brain is slow on a Monday, and I'm like, today is Tuesday. Can't even think of the day. Anyway.
All right. And then the last one, instead of thinking this is too hard, which to me it comes across as another childish thing to say, rather think this may take some time and effort. And guys, everything worth getting requires a lot of time and effort and hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. If it was easy, then everyone else would have it, and it wouldn't be a challenge. It wouldn't force you to go out of your comfort zone, give you something to walk towards, and help you with this growth, help you reach whatever goals you want, whatever desires and manifestations you dream about
in your wildest dreams.
So yeah, those are just some mindset hacks you can use. Just like always catch yourself. It's so easy when you start being more like conscious of what you're thinking in your mind to pick up negative thought processes and thought patterns. And as soon as you do, and you switch them out with positive ones, you'll notice such a huge shift and a change, and it'll just be amazing.
And I think, like we were saying about people learning differently, like some of you may be listening to this and like you've already forgotten the first point of like how to correct yourselves. I think we'll definitely post this on our Instagram page, so you guys can save the post and you can always refer back to it or write it down, take notes, but it will just always remind you, like, instead of this, to think this.
Yes.
So, I mean, it will always be there for you guys. But carrying on with growth mindset, we just thought we'd read some growth mindset.
Got such a fright.
Dobby's sitting behind rocks and he just had the biggest sneeze. That's hilarious. I wish you saw that, guys. Rox jumped out of her chair. But so we just thought we'd read some growth mindset statements to you guys.
Almost like affirmations.
I was just going to say, like positive affirmations, just ways to affirm your growth and to convince your mind that you are growing and to put yourself into that process. So number 1 is, I learn by trying new things.
Yes. Number 2, I focus on progress.
Yes. Number 3, I'm ready to ask for help.
This is such a big one.
I was just going to say,
so
don't be scared.
Yeah, and so many people view asking for help as a weakness, but like we said, the worst that can happen is you learn something new. Is it me now?
Yes.
Okay. I can get through anything.
Yes, I love that. Number 5, focus on myself and not others. Like we say, I mean, what's the point in focusing on other people? It ain't going to help you grow.
Number 6, I will keep learning. I feel like I don't even need to say this because I'm addicted to learning.
Literally. Number 7, self-doubt kills dreams. That says everything in itself, honestly.
Okay, number 8, it's okay not to know.
Love that too. And then number 9 is talent comes from practice. So, I mean, yes, some people are born with talent, but talent comes from practice, guys. Practice makes perfect. Okay, and then we thought we'd just end off on a little quote, which we found. This one actually does have an author because some of our quotes are unknown. So this is by Abraham Maslow. And it says, in any given moment, we have 2 options: to step forward into growth or to step back into safety. And I think that's such a nice way to just end off on the growth mindset, because at any point in life, I mean, yes, it may seem scary, but you either have the option of stepping forward and growing from it, or you step back into what's comfortable and what's safe for you, and you actually have no growth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're always one decision away from creating a better life. So just keep that in mind. I know we all tend to put the blame on other people, situations that we're in, all the other things that we can't control. But at the end of the day, guys, you control your destiny, your reality, your future, your success, your mindset, your everything. So just keep that in mind. Next time you're having a bad day and you feel like giving up.
Yes. Listen to this podcast. Oh, that's hilarious. Thank you guys, honestly, for being here today, for tuning in, for listening to us multiple times. If you've listened to this podcast already,
we love you
all
lots.
of the times. We'll speak to you
next week.
I'm like later. Next time, same time, same place.
Bye, guys.